Hello and welcome back to Radio Free Urbanism, a fantastic podcast, top rated in Apple Podcasts, actually. I don't know if you've checked the ratings lately, but it's a number. It's there.
It's
Or the opportunity to rate if it doesn't have ratings is there. Please leave us a 5-star review before you've even listened to this episode. I promise we will deliver, and that is because I'm joined by two very shockingly handsome co-hosts. If you're watching this on YouTube, avert your eyes because they're beautiful. We've got Nick here to join us.
Hello.
And of course, Ethan as well.
And before you've even listened, be sure to like this on YouTube.
And subscribe. And leave us a comment.
Exactly.
We do get into listener mail. So if you leave us a comment, you'll get a shout out on the podcast. Speaking of shout outs, actually, I want to start off with a shout out for Sergey, who's been listening to the podcast. He's a great guy. He works at my favorite restaurant around the bend. So shout out to Sergey, great guy, and he makes great food. But I also want to bring up some beef I have as we get started with the show. City Nerd Ray recently published a video where he talks about 56 cities or 56 city pairs that should have high-speed rail. And he did math and stuff in it. So lends legitimacy. Also, he's like a professional of some sort. He's smart, I think it's fantastic, but Edmonton and Calgary were not included on the list, and it broke my heart a little bit, and I was like, how could this have happened? Edmonton and Calgary are perfect city pairs for high-speed rail, which they are, okay?
To
but
connect
they didn't
all
make it onto the
12
list.
people in Edmonton and all 15 people in Calgary.
Exactly. This is what I'm saying. I've got people I want to see up there. So I'm just saying, if
isn't Alberta completely flat? So just wave across to them, I'm sure the sight lines are that good, or it's flat.
This is the thing. The path is straight and flat already. And I just listen, guys. Please. I just need as much support as possible. I would just really appreciate an amendment where it's actually, I was wrong. Edmonton to Calgary is number one. That would be great because I don't know. I just really, it's important to me. Anyways,
We'll call him up.
we'll call him up.
We'll let them know.
So our next thing here, Nick has some things to say.
Yeah. So I had an experience this past weekend. I decided to go for a rainy bike ride, as you do when you live in Vancouver, to explore some places I hadn't been to in a while. The Central Valley Greenway that heads into Burnaby to the east. I had a great ride, but I got caught unprepared, and I didn't bring a spare tire or my bike pump, and I got a flat tire, which happens, from time to time. But usually I'm like, it doesn't happen. It's been years since I've had a flat tire on my bike. But there's this wonderful thing about living in a place like Vancouver is that when I had the flat tire, all I had to do was roll to the nearest SkyTrain stop, which, by the way, this trail runs underneath the SkyTrain.
Oh, cool.
And then I could just go on the SkyTrain and then ride it to the bus and then take the bus home. How freaking awesome is that? It's pretty nice, huh?
That is pretty nice.
I think we should have that everywhere. So this, not only having the synergy between transit and micromobility is fantastic, but to be able to bring on your micromobility device onto the transit, bonus.
We love that kind of level, that what you call, that second option.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So it was fun because I rode the bus maybe a month ago when I went to a sports game. So it's not very often I get to go on the bus. So it was kind of fun. And the last time I put my bike on the bus, it's been years, many, many years since I've done that. And it took me a while to actually get it on. I had my GoPro running, so I haven't checked the footage yet. I got to check it out. But the bus driver was getting mad. I wanted him to come help me because I haven't used this in so long. It took me forever. And he's kept pointing and gesturing to try to tell me how to make it work. I'm like, dude, I don't know. I got it. And he's like, you have to put it further up. So I went back out to fix it. It was fine. We figured it out.
Yeah. We got there.
Yeah, we got there.
Eventually. It took a minute.
Yeah, and you know what? I just want to say this is how Nick has learned to love transit. Okay, for the past several months, Nick has been hating on transit privately. He hates trains. He hates buses.
He's one of those cyclists.
Yeah,
that
he's one of
just
those cyclists.
he's one of those cyclists who has an SUV and then just drives his bike everywhere.
No, I thought you were going to say that I only bike, and if you don't bike, you belong in hell, and that's the end of the story.
Yeah, yeah. But no, now Nick loves transit because he realizes that it doubles as a tow truck for your bike.
The
true.
world's
Yeah.
cheapest tow truck. What was it, like $350 for it?
$360, I think. So yeah.
Oh my
close.
goodness, you got overcharged. They're hosing you, man. No, but it's like it is amazing though how convenient that is, and I really think so. I'm assuming it was two bike racks or two spots for the bikes.
2 spots,
On
on the bus.
Yeah, and it's just fantastic because you don't need it all the time. You don't see it all the time, but it is this little thing that really like makes a big difference. Just when you happen to need it, right?
Yeah, totally. And I don't think a lot of people use it. In the summertime, it gets more used, I'm sure, but it's not that often you see a bike used as a weapon at the front of a bus.
Yeah. See, the thing is that I think a lot of people don't use it because like it's such a contraption thingy mabob on the front of the bus. Where you're just like, what the hell do I do with that? Because like me personally, I've never done that with my bike. I've never brought my bike on the bus because I'm just like, I guess. Like I'd have no clue, and I know that there's guides on how to do it, but I feel like it's just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel intuitive enough to use.
Yeah, it's a bit intimidating, but yeah. Now that I've used it recently, if I use it again in the next year or so, I'm sure I'll easily remember how to use it. Like it's literally pull it down and then just put your bike on and then just pull the other thing and put it over the wheel, and that's it. But yeah, it took me more steps than that in practice for the first time in a long time.
I think actually Las Vegas at one of the transit centers actually has like a little like demonstration thing on how you can like practice using it. They have like a little bike center at the bus station downtown.
I think that's a great idea.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, because you know what? So on this topic of education, when we're growing up, we learn about driving, right? And when you're 16 or whatever, you might do driver's ed, right? But there's no explanation on how to navigate the world using transit. And I think this is another area where we can work is educating people on how to use transit. Because now that I've been using transit mostly as well as cycling supplementally to get around for 6 months now, it is like actually easy. Like it is super easy and really uninteresting. Actually, once you get the hang of it and once you know how to do it, you're just like, well, yeah, this is just how I get around. And so I think that education part is a big deal, because if growing up you're like, oh, and this is how you put your bike on a bus, if you need to make that connection, right? If you want to ride from point A to point B and then take the bus to point C and then ride from there, right? I think it's a great trip extender. And so yeah, if you were able to get that education earlier, I think that serve you well, right? Because you wouldn't have that confusion. It'd just be, you just pop it down like this. I learned how to do this just in case I ever needed it. And now it's easy.
It's intuitive. Yeah.
Transit education. Let's go.
Yeah. I think it would be great. But let's move on to this. Ethan.
So, folks, subject's on me now, apparently. But this weekend, I'm going to announce this here. First place I'm announcing it. I'm going to be in Phoenix, Arizona for the opening of the Northwest Extension by Valley Metro. So that event goes from, I believe, 9 in the morning to noon. I'll probably be there later in the day, but if you're going to that, you may actually see me there. So if you're in the Phoenix area, and if you're one of our listeners, feel free to stop by, say hi, and I'll be in Phoenix for most of the day. So I'll be checking out transit there. I'm also going to be checking out the wonderful community development down in Tempe called Culdesac, which is the first kind of modern car-free development in the U.S., and I mean, it's really just kind of a model for a lot of other developments too, but it'll be super exciting to check out the urbanism of Phoenix. Can you believe that I'm saying that? Who would think a place like Phoenix has even the slightest amount of urbanism.
There's some unexpected urbanism for you. Do you have an
Yeah.
idea of how big Culdesac is? Like, is it a cul-de-sac where it's like no cars here, or is it like a bigger development?
So it's I think it's only like I think it's a couple hundred units if I'm not mistaken. They range from studios to two beds, but
Hmm.
it mostly kind of fits on like the normal like what you would imagine for like a space of development for like a couple of 5/1s.
Right.
Except it's a much better land use even than a 5/1, which is it's super exciting. From all the photos I've seen so far, it's got these really nice little alleyways that are constantly shaded. It's got plenty of shade trees. I've seen some of the bicycle parking there. It looks excellent, and it's mixed use too. Like they have like restaurants on the property, so it definitely looks like an interesting community development, and I can't wait to go check that out in person and get some more footage for it, and we can always talk about it on the next episode because it really has been making the rounds. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Hank Green was just there today, so
Which is cool.
yeah, they're bringing
That's
in all
awesome.
the influencers to go see Culdesac.
I love that they
Yeah.
have a road called Electric Avenue after the company Electric.
Really?
They've got a partnership with Electric. Yeah, they named one of the
Because they're
streets.
I think Electric is from Phoenix, if I'm not mistaken.
Are they?
Yeah, I think they're either based out of Phoenix or Tucson, but yeah, they're an Arizona company.
That's awesome.
I think they may have gotten their start in Minneapolis, but I think they moved to Arizona later on. But yeah, I have electric myself, so that's I don't swear to any brand loyalty, but with e-bikes, but I will sell out when it comes to
Yeah.
when it comes to micromobility. I will sell out.
He will get a tattoo on his ass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
And you'll make sure it's seen, right, Ethan?
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
for the patrons, of
For the
course.
patrons, yeah.
You think you're getting that for free? I don't know what you're thinking.
So so that's super excited. I'm very much looking forward to hearing your report back on what it's like. But I also want to hear the extension in Phoenix.
Yeah, it's
What are your expectations with that? How many stations are opening up? What's the deal there?
we're going to be seeing 3 new stations, and the end station is supposed to be both a transit center and eventually TOD is going to be built all around it because it's built at the spot of a dead mall. I know that had been brought up in conversation before. We've actually already talked about this on the podcast. But yeah, I mean, it's a super exciting development. They've released plenty of photos and videos of the stations already, and they look really nice, clean, and modern. It should hopefully go well with their rolling stock. And I mean, there have been some questions. I know one of the big ones I've seen is that they've been trying to replace their ticketing machines, but apparently there's been some supply chain issues. So it'll be interesting to see if their new stations have these ticketing machines. But I'm super excited to see these stations. I mean, they should be very promising, even by light rail standards.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah,
I'm going to check
that's-
out the bus services there too.
Yeah.
I've kind of become. I'm not picky with transit anymore. If the city has transit, I'm gonna go check it out. I'm gonna go get
Yeah.
video of it.
That's awesome. And will you be signing autographs?
If anybody wants one, I'm so sorry that you want one, but you know what? I'm not opposed.
That
What would
would
they
be
Yeah,
sign?
I'll be signing all your Valley Metro stuff with
That's what I was
autographs.
thinking. Yeah, any kind of Metro passes you might have on hand, get them ready.
That would be that'd be like an interesting thing to collect.
Yeah, oh
you
yeah.
know? Yeah.
What, Metro passes?
Yeah,
Signed
but
Metro
no, I know a
passes.
lot of people
Oh,
collect
yeah.
Metro passes, but like signature, like Metro passes signed by urbanists.
That
That's
would
pretty
definitely be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
It's got
Yeah,
a new
that
eBay
would- that
business
would be-
coming.
So yeah, this is the SEPTA key card I got that's signed by Alan Fisher.
Hey, I mean, hey, why not? You know, I mean, could you imagine if you had something signed by Jane Jacobs?
That's actually pretty cool.
That
be
would
pretty
like,
cool.
you know, that would be pretty cool. So
You
make
get your
sure
New
you,
Jersey Turnpike receipt signed by Robert Moses himself.
That would be incredible.
You get your TTC card signed by RM Transit by Reese.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. You could, and if you come to Calgary, get your Calgary bus ticket signed by me. You
Come get
know,
your RTC
uh,
ticket signed by me. Go
uh,
to Vancouver,
that
get your
would be
SkyTrain ticket signed by Nick.
No, I don't sign those. No,
Oh,
no.
Nick.
I'll sign
Oh
your bike though.
oh,
wow. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Oh right. Nick's
yeah, that's
anti-transit
right. That's
pro
right.
bike. He's only a fan of transit when it serves him, I guess.
Yeah.
He
Which
sees it as a tow truck for his bike. That is all.
yeah, brake in case of emergency. But he wants them riding around with great frequency regardless. Yeah, which you know what? I guess we're on the same side.
But you know
Uh,
what? It is really interesting to see that kind of pedestrianization come around, and just
yeah.
that agreement with cyclists and transit users. And speaking of the infrastructure that we can agree on, a new law just passed in California. Would you guys like to hear about that one?
Oh, please
Oh, I'd
do.
love to. Tell us.
So, recently, starting January 1st, 2024, the state of California has passed a daylighting law that officially requires all intersections to be clear within about 20 feet of them, I believe is what the law says. But it essentially means that there's going to be more visibility around intersections. Maybe a little less parking in the city. I know, what a sin. But hey, we'll have more visibility at our intersections. It'll be easier to see pedestrians, and while sight lines aren't everything, it will definitely be super helpful. And it's just a little law change that we could see, definitely maybe reduce the amount of, impacts that it has on pedestrians. But what do you guys think about this law?
I mean, I think it's a great first step, right? Like it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah, totally. And I just saw a video from Doug Gordon in Street Films that was on YouTube recently, where he was highlighting the daylighting in New York City too,
Hmm.
and the change that they're making to just make it safer for pedestrians and cyclists. It's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Better.
definitely seen some really good daylighting examples when I was traveling around last summer. I saw some really good ones up in Seattle where they used the bike lane to kind of basically they used bulb outs with the bike with a protected bike lane, which I thought was
Mm-hmm.
really really smart for
Yeah.
increasing visibility and also increasing the protected ability of the bike lane. And then I also saw some really ragtag ones that kind of sucked. Like Chicago had some that were like bulb outs, but they only used flexi posts. And so
Mm.
you'd run into an intersection where all the flexi posts have been taken out, and it's basically like there's not even a bulb out there anymore, and everybody's just
Right.
driving over it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like making it a rule is a great first step, but then actually trying to make sure that you like create infrastructure, right? In this video we're watching right now, from this is from Street Films, Nick.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
Doug Gordon from War on Cars.
Oh, I love War on Cars. Like in this video you see a lot of like temporary infrastructure, and not even like just temporary, but it's flimsy infrastructure. So it's a start, it's a place to begin things. But then hopefully what we start doing is building what we see here, where we've got concrete put down, and some flower beds sometimes and stuff. That makes a much bigger difference than just pylons, because
Good old
pylons can be
concrete.
moved or toppled over.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that I've noticed too, just here in Vancouver, is something we need more of in neighborhoods, is where people will park their cars in places like this, where you could have daylighting, right? You could have daylighting here. Instead, there's a car here, which is going to block visibility for any other vehicles coming around that corner or through that
Hmm.
intersection, which just makes it incredibly dangerous, unnecessarily dangerous. Like we don't need that in our cities. So these are simple things that we can do. It's already usually illegal to park in these places to begin with, but to actually
Hmm.
make it impossible for people to block those places for visibility is, important for safety.
Yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
it's about people, right? And when you're driving, obviously you don't want to hit somebody,
No.
right? So yeah, we're giving up a few parking spots to make sure people walking or people cycling or children in strollers or on bikes or whatever are safer. We're also making sure like you can get around your city without being nervous about, oh my goodness, what's going to be around this corner.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. So I think that's fantastic. I'm excited that's a start, and then hopefully they start really going kind of gung ho on putting the putting the built environment to kind of back up
Enforcement is
that
probably
law.
going to be the biggest thing when it comes to cities in California, because obviously
Hmm.
not every intersection is currently retrofitted to have any sort of bulb outs or anything like that. So, I mean, obviously you do have your good examples, but I mean, a vast majority of it is still people parking straight up to the intersection, and hopefully we can see some changes with that. But the law is definitely a good start, and with it being now illegal to park within 20 feet of an intersection, it's going to be super helpful. And then we'll just have to build the infrastructure to ensure that people don't break the law.
Yeah. 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 So so I'm excited to continue seeing how that develops. But speaking of losing parking spaces, here in Calgary, they are looking at a transit-oriented development, a TOD. That can be our
Disgusting.
word of the day is TOD, transit-oriented development. And yes, it is disgusting. Building housing for people and removing parking spaces. It's absolutely dreadful. But I'm going to show you guys just a quick picture of where this TOD is, so you can get an idea. And it's gonna be a little guy. It's not a big thing. So here is a picture. So affordable housing. So this is the parking lot. There are two parking lots at this Franklin LRT station, and it's right here. There are some neighborhoods here, and there's up towards the north of the station are industrial zones and stuff. But yeah, so they're going to turn this parking lot. It's not a huge spot, but they're going to turn that into some affordable housing, and right at the train station, which is the best spot for that sort of thing. So I'm very much looking forward to this one.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did they say how many units they're going to be building there?
Let me check here. Um, do do.
Because that, I mean, it doesn't matter necessarily. Just
Yeah,
to densify the area, especially when it comes to being near transit stops, is hugely
yeah.
important.
So it's saying 200 to 300 units, which is gonna be. I have the information
So
here.
like a
Let me pull up.
mid-rise of some sort.
Yeah, or even like like it's not gonna be super tall. But it is a start. So let's see where the average household size in Calgary, I think, is something like 2.1 people, or maybe 2.6 even. Um, and so that's gonna, it's gonna house, 500 to 700 people, um, right right at the transit stop, which is great. That's more housing. Every little bit counts. And I also think doing this one, this is a smaller one. We have some bigger parking lots that we could turn into transit-oriented developments in Calgary along the trains. But starting with something small like this, showing how well it works, and then continuing to build out other spaces like this. Every little bit helps as we're in a housing crisis. And yeah, the city's not getting any smaller population wise, so being able to do this is gonna be a big boost for us.
I think my one gripe with this project is not necessarily the TOD itself. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I think
Hmm.
my biggest gripe with this is that the station is in a highway median.
Hmm.
And we all know how
Yeah,
lovely it is to wait at a highway median station.
yeah. I'll say. I mean, again, same thing like we talked about a few weeks ago with like calling this a highway median is a little generous, or pessimistic, I guess. The speed limit here, it's just
Oh, I
coming.
forget you guys have your Canadian
Yeah,
speed
yeah.
limits.
So this one is 80 kilometers per hour, maybe even. Yeah, I think it's
It's
80
still,
here,
I'd say the thing is
and
that
then it's about to drop down to 60 as well, as you go past it. So it's not horrible, um, and you're not crossing like 6 lanes. You're crossing like 3 lanes to get across to this. So I agree that there are better places to put train stations, but this is not absolutely horrid.
You see, your solution to this would just be to just get rid of the highway?
Try to sell that
Exactly.
one in City Hall.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
God,
yeah.
Trust me, I got this. I got this.
Come down to City Hall with me.
he's gonna bring
Ethan.
bombs. That's all he's got.
Yeah,
He's got. There's no argument happening. Just make it happen.
Ethan-
Your highway is
He-
bad.
highway bad. Train good, highway
Yeah.
bad.
Makes Calgary worse.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll get to
Well,
him.
how can I dumb this down for you?
Oh my God.
Ethan says to City Council.
How can I dump?
Highway bad.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time. That's all I wanted to say. It's like, sir, you still have 4 minutes and 55 seconds.
American
left to
walks in, walks up to the podium. All right, you maple syrup drinkers, train good, car bad. Thank you for your time.
spare.
Walk
Thank you for
out,
your
immediately go right across the border back to the U.S.
Solved
Yeah,
all your
yeah.
problems just like that.
Ethan, I'm from the future. I'm here to let you don't go down this path. We've made a horrible mistake.
I know this is bad. Trust me, I live in America.
I've seen what your future looks like.
You do not want to do this highway expansion.
Yeah, so yeah, it's some good stuff. Some good stuff happening here. Any other thoughts before we just move right along to some more transit talk?
I think we're going to talk a bit more about this in response to some listener mail, so we can save it for that.
Absolutely.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's
yeah,
super
great
exciting, though,
point.
to see TOD anyways, because we need more
Yeah.
apartments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's great that that we're doing it. So, all right, Nick, you're up.
I'm up. Yes. So this is about TransLink, which is the service that runs our buses, the SkyTrain, the C-Bus, etc. There's a strike that's somewhat ongoing, I guess you could say. So this is involving just one union, a small union that kind of covers engineers, supervisors, and other positions. It's about only 180 people, 200 people, or something like that have gone on strike. But this has affected the service. In fact, Monday and Tuesday, that's the past 2 days. Today's Wednesday. The buses in Vancouver were not running. Almost all of them were not running to be, quote unquote, in solidarity with this small portion of TransLink that was on strike. And I'm not going to go into the details of what they're requesting in that because that's not what I want to talk about. I more wanted to bring this up to prompt the idea, is this a fatal flaw in a comprehensive transit system? You have relatively well-paid workers who have the ability to go on strike. Is that a fatal flaw when it comes to transit? That's the prompt I wanted to bring out of this. What do you guys think? No, it's a big one. Maybe I should have talked about before the podcast, but
that is
mildly controversial, Nick. Thank you for bringing this topic in. This is going to be great for the clips, folks.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ethan, before we recorded, says we need to disagree more. We need to get at each other's throats more.
We need to fight on the podcast more.
Yeah, make it a little spicy.
Yeah. So, just to make a point here, so about essential services. So, for example, there are some services within Canada that are unionized, but effectively can be sent back to work if they go on strike. One that comes to mind is Canada Post, for example. If they go on strike, the federal government can unconstitutionally order them back to work, and they're not striking anymore, or unless they'll lose their jobs effectively. So they've even talked about doing this with TransLink workers, is putting them in that position, even though it's been deemed, unconstitutional by the federal government or the federal, Supreme Court. Yes. Yeah. They still keep doing it. So whatever, but that's the thing. So yeah, anyways, go ahead. Whatever you're going to say.
Okay. Before I say what I'm going to say, I need to show everybody something.
Oh,
okay. Do you know what I'm going to show?
No,
people?
not yet.
Okay.
I just love the show and tell.
Yeah. I need to make sure everybody gets like a clear look at what we're talking about, because in order to fully understand Canada and what our whole deal is, you need to know something about us. Okay. And yeah, you guys keep saying something while I finish pulling this
Okay,
up.
So
so
Nanaimo bars are pretty good, right, Nick?
delicious. You can actually get cream liqueur in Nanaimo bar flavored. It's quite good.
Oh,
But
okay,
You
that's
can.
interesting.
something that I've seen recently in the past couple of days on Reddit, mostly like Cycling Vancouver and the Vancouver subreddit, is people looking for alternatives and, solidifying that back up. People looking at how to cycle in the winter, and obviously a lot of people getting back into their cars or using Evo, that's car share, stuff like that, while this strike has been going on. Again, the buses are back right now. This strike could happen again in the next few days. We don't know exactly, but yeah.
Right. Well, so Nick has forced my hand. Nick brought it up, so I have to share with everybody. If you're watching the YouTube version of this, I just want to show you this pretty building here. First of all, this is the Supreme Court of Canada building. Very beautiful. This is in Ottawa, of course. I actually kind of dig the architecture, but something that I think is even more important for people to understand, and maybe Ethan can describe to the listeners what they are missing out on if they're just listening in their podcast app, is the Supreme Court of Canada outfits. Ethan, can you describe this for the
So,
audience?
for my Americans, our judges wear pretty simple black robes, our Supreme Court justices. The Canadian Supreme Court, I believe this is their formal wear, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yep.
So, in their formal wear, they have the classic the two tie neck thing. You've probably seen it. I think the UK courts wear them as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, their robes are essentially like they look like, makes them look like Santa.
Yeah.
It's very Christmassy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'd
Very
never seen this
festive.
before.
Have you not seen this?
No, this is
Nick?
great.
So this is the Supreme Court of Canada. They wear red robes with white fur, and like the cuffs are like huge white fur cuffs. Okay, like you just Google a picture of the Supreme Court of
It is
Canada.
literally Santa's suit.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Some traditions can
Um,
die, okay? Like when you look at
no,
courtrooms in the
this is an important one. Okay, this is beautiful.
Hey, didn't these guys also used to wear wigs up until like what, the 50s?
I think they still do that in the UK.
I know in the
Yeah, I
UK
think in the
the
UK
higher
they
courts
do.
do it, but
Yeah, I don't know when Canada stopped doing this, but I do love the outfits. Like it distinguishes us, you know. So Nick brought up the Supreme Court of Canada, and I just wanted to mention this
While
before
he's
I
stalling.
say
this comment, this was an urgent matter by Alex
Th-
to
this
make sure
was-
that
it's
we
true,
had
it's
proper
true.
context on the situation of unionized workers going on strike.
So I will say I I will always err on the side of unions and of striking. And so I th- here's the thing. I don't like things to stop running, but also I am pro union, and I think the whole point of going on strike is to make things stop running, in order to get your due. And I think there are a lot of unions. I will talk about it in the future when I'm no longer at the union job that I'm at. There are some unions that are totally ineffective, because they won't strike, and so then it really like it keeps you back from like actually giving people a living wage. And I don't know about this situation. I don't know about this, but if bus drivers go on a strike because they feel they are not being treated fairly, or they deserve some more compensation, or whatever it is, I say, yeah, let the system shut down, um, and and get what you need to get before you get back to work, I guess. That's
Mhm.
that's that's how I feel about it. Although I can also appreciate the frustration that comes and the damage that comes, when some things are inoperating.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would mostly agree with you on that one, Alex. It's just the one thing that really kind of bites me on this one, rather than, it's not so much the transit shutting down, but it's more or less forcing people without other options to essentially, they're kind of lost without their options. Because
Hmm.
especially on smaller systems, I don't know if it's the same way in Vancouver, but most riders on most US systems are lower income. And if you take
Hmm.
away transit, you're going to bite into a very, very low budget for people. But also at the same time, worker solidarity. And, I want people to make sure that they have a living wage, and unions
Yeah.
are without a doubt the best way to collectively bargain for better wages. So it
Hmm.
really is kind of this conundrum of like, really, like it's really just this huge, it's just kind of like two sides fighting it out, where it's like you have people who are, not making enough, usually aren't making enough money, because that's usually the transit riders, at least with my system. But you also have people that, deserve to be paid a fair living wage, and deserve to have that, consistently go up, in order, with how the cost of living and other issues like that. So yeah, it is a very very complex issue, but I will side with workers here and with unions on this one.
It's hard to
Yeah.
measure because there's a lot of things we talk about in society when it comes to equity and fairness, and a lot of times these things come between two different groups of people. Two different groups of people are want that fairness, but when you do either of them, they just step on each other's toes, and that seems to be the case here. So it's the decision of, is this okay for a period of time, even if it's just a few days? Is it worth that
Hmm.
to make sure that we have fair, like you said, fair and living wages for people who are working in those systems? And I think that's what I think is definitely the right way to go. But it does dishearten me when you see the comments or hear the comments from people about transit when things like this happen. Like, oh, why would I
Hmm.
ever take transit? I can't rely on it. This is another thing that they can
Right.
use as
Yeah.
an
Yeah.
argument against
Yeah.
transit. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. But that's why we need options. It's about the whole system. It's not just about
Hmm.
having one or the other. It's not a monolith. And I
Yeah.
keep having to
Mhm.
bring this up, and I shouldn't be reading the comments or responding to comments to my videos or YouTube stuff or Instagram, but I do on occasion. And I see it so many times where it's like, oh, how can you bike in this weather? Or you can't bike this far. You can't do, it's like, it's not about the monolith. It's not about doing it for every single trip. It's about
Hmm.
having options and freedom to do it however you want to do it. And that, so if one thing doesn't work for you that day, you have another way to get to where you need to go.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's about the
And
whole puzzle.
yeah, that is the most important thing. I mean, it's
The overlap.
yeah. Yeah, like I know for me where I live, even if the last week this happened to me. I was on my way to soccer and the bus was just not coming. And I guess it was canceled or something. I was getting mixed messages.
Got
And
ghosted by the bus.
yeah, yeah, I got ghosted by the bus. And so I'm like, okay, well, what can I do? Okay, well, I can go to another bus stop that's a little bit further away. And I started walking to the bus, kind of did the race the bus thing. And I started walking to this other transit stop. And well, the bus never came, but I got to this other transit stop and I was able to refigure out my route based on, okay, well, I can take this bus, I can take a different route. And so having options where, okay, well, this one is down, this one's not working, I can go somewhere else. It's the same when you're in a car and there's construction on the road that you normally use because maybe they're widening it or they're repairing the bridge or whatever. You have the option to take a different road, right? You can go somewhere else and get around that. And maybe it takes the same amount of time, right? So having the option to use transit, to drive, to use your bike, to take a train, to use a different bus, to whatever it is, having those options available is huge and crucial.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
And I did take this picture on Monday, so the first day of the strike, and I thought it was very, very apt. And as you can see, there's a bus shelter, and there's like these silhouettes of where people used to sit or had sat on the
Hmm.
bench, and it just felt very, very on point, on the nose.
That's kind of a beautiful picture,
Yeah, it
actually.
is.
Yeah,
Very artistic.
yeah, I thought it
Yeah.
was good. good
Our
spot.
own Nick Laporte.
Yes.
Yeah.
Look out.
We need on the ground journalists that we can like throw to and be like, now to Nick Laporte in Vancouver.
Our
Hi everybody. So I'm
correspondent.
sitting here. Yeah,
With this-
we need correspondence. So if you want to be a correspondent for us, you can actually do that, kind of, sort of. Write into us at what's our email? radiofreeurbanism@gmail.com.
It finally
Or leave
has
a
a
comment on the
profile
YouTube
picture.
video.
It used to just be that generic Google R or generic Google letter image that you would have if you didn't have a profile picture. But today I decided to put in just a little bit of effort, and now it has the
Nice.
Radio Free Urbanism logo. So now
Nice.
when you see that, you know.
Ethan, single-handedly keeping this show alive. Uh, so let's move on to some of that listener mail, some of our correspondence, if you will, and we'll start off with Jen's comment, read by Ethan.
Jen, the wonderful Halls Emporium, very big fan of the show, writes, the CES 2024 wrapped up last week, and year over year, micromobility is gaining in presence. Lots of innovations in e-bikes, scooters, etc. hit the showroom floor. If you could... Sorry, I can't read today. If you could all add one of the latest and greatest micromobility devices to your collection, what would it be?
That's a great question.
That's a great question. I'm really glad this one popped up because this was actually in our show notes from the last show, but it didn't make the cut for the actual finalized show. So I'm glad we get to talk about it today. So that's pretty cool. So this is something I've been following, obviously. Love micromobility, and it was cool to see the stuff come out of CES. I didn't realize it was gaining such a huge presence. So if you go to Micromobility Industries on YouTube, they covered it in 3 parts. One of their people who works at that channel covered it in 3 different videos. So you can check to see all the different things that are there. So what to talk about? There's some good stuff. Like Jen said in the comment, e-bikes and scooters definitely dominated the floor. Like there was so many scooters and so many e-bikes, but there's 2 in particular that I really want to highlight. And one of them is from Segway. So if you don't know, everybody knows what a Segway is, right? Segway got bought out by Ninebot a while ago. Effectively, I think Segways don't even exist anymore. You can't buy a new Segway anymore, but they do make scooters with the Segway branding. They make Ninebot Maxes. They have a whole lineup of scooters, but they did come out with some new scooters recently in the past 2 years. Their GT series, which is like their big honking 11-inch wheel scooters. They're massive. They range from, I think, 1,500 to 2,500 USD, and they're pretty fast, very stable, very well regarded. They also have the P100S, which is the one I'm most interested. This is their older models again that came out on Kickstarter, and it had a mixed review when it first came out. It had some problems with the back axle, but it was like really in that sweet spot for a commuter scooter, which is the ones that I love. It went up to like, I don't know, 48 kilometers per hour max speed. It could climb hills pretty well. But the thing that they came out with now is called the ST1. And this is the one that I was most interested as far as the scooters go. This scooter looks like the GT mixed with the P100S. So it's like right in that middle. It's got the extra room for the shocks. It's got disc brakes. It looks like it has good coverage from rain with the fenders, and it has a great IP rating. And it's not crazy fast because I'm not really interested in the crazy fast scooters, the ones that are going 70 plus kilometers per hour. It's too much. We'll get into that another day, I'm sure. However, away from that, there was one particular thing that was really cool, and it was a Suitcase scooter. Yeah, that's right. A Suitcase scooter. In fact, this scooter just looks like a carry-on suitcase. And not only is it a scooter, but it'll also follow you around with a Bluetooth RFID bracelet. So if you're like at the airport, you can just keep walking and this thing will just follow you around like a little robot, a little R2D2, which is freaking awesome. So it actually has an extending handle that pops out the side and pops straight up that you sit right on the suitcase, and then you can just scoot around the airport with this thing. It's hilarious. And that's the one that I would want. That's the answer to the question. I want this scooter.
Wasn't that Honda who made that?
No. It's different. This is called Airwheel Suitcase scooter. Yeah. And again, think of a tiny carry-on suitcase that just pops out the front. Oh, perfect. Sharing the screen here. Yeah. And it's hilarious. It just looks ridiculous. The Honda one did look ridiculous. They had a scooter that did look quite silly that you sat on. I actually saw one recently
a few days ago, a guy riding it down the Arbutus Greenway. I should have stopped to talk to him about it. But yeah, I'd only seen one in the flesh. But yeah, this thing is, it's just, you got to see it. Anyway, that's the Airwheel Suitcase scooter. Check that out.
Interesting. I I I don't know. I don't know how much I like the suitcase thing. I don't know. The
It's a novelty.
follows you around the airport and I don't know.
Someone's snatching that up here. I know that.
I just don't know how you're going to bring it on the plane because it's probably got lithium ion battery, right?
Yeah.
Who knows how big that is?
Yeah.
Hey, you can bring it on the train.
There you go. Yeah.
Ride it around Union Station, you know.
We love trains. We do love trains. Ethan, what micromobility thing would you add to your collection?
So honestly, I'm going to be completely honest. As someone who lives in Vegas, I wasn't even paying that much attention to CES this year. But if there was anything micromobility wise that I could add, I would add in, a nice cargo e-bike.
Mm-hmm.
I love the versatility of those things. The amount that you can carry, the ability to have someone hop on the back. I really do love just the carrying capacity of those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd have to say the same. Like that's a no-brainer for me. It's convenient, being able to carry around so much and get around like comfortably. But at the same time, parking at places would be frustrating. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'd go for like a regular Gazelle e-bike. Nothing too fancy, keep it simple. I gotta say, like, I love that the micromobility stuff is taking over so much at CES, and that it's becoming just like something people talk about is these interesting and different creative ways to get around our cities. I think it's super cool and exciting to see that becoming more and more of just a mainstream conversation. Not even like an urbanist, you need to like care about the planet kind of conversation, but just like hey, yeah, like it's a fun way to get around. It's just fun, right? And it's cool.
It's also something that
Um,
you can show to people really easily. Like, people love to take e-bikes or e-scooters out. Like, you mention
yeah,
it, you're rolling.
Oh yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy. It's something that people don't even think about, and then when they finally try it, they're like, "I need one of these. I need it now. Where do I
yeah,
get this?"
The moment, I'm sure you guys also know this, the moment you first hopped on an e-bike and felt the motor kick in.
Oh,
hmm
it's
yeah.
incredible.
It's just so nice to be able to get around so conveniently and comfortably.
Yeah,
First time I rode an
Um,
e-bike with pedal assist, I'm like, I'm not even
yeah,
putting any power into this thing.
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
I
incredible.
do love the pedal assist though, because it I think it helps with like the connection to the movement,
Yes.
right? Like it, instead of you just pressing a button like it is on a car or like a throttle on an e-scooter or something, the pedal assist does give you a little bit more physical feedback of like I am in motion. Um, and so I think that's fantastic. We've got another comment. Or actually, this one's an email. Again, our email is radiofreeurbanism@gmail.com. Nick, you got this one for us?
Yeah, I'll read this one here. This one says, "Hi guys, long-time listener, first-time commenter. I just wanted to provide some clarity to Nick's comment about car-free streets in Vancouver. I think we talked about that a few episodes ago. So the Granville Entertainment District, which houses the majority of Vancouver's nightlife scene, is car-free on Friday and Saturdays for 3 blocks east and west, while the north and southbound connectors open to traffic. The reasons for this was to have visible police presence to deal with problems that often arise from alcohol and testosterone. And yes, I can attest to that. It gets pretty crazy down there on the weekends. It's a bit ridiculous." And he goes on to say, "I have a question for all of you. I'm fully supportive of 15-minute cities and increasing density around transit hubs. I'm wanting all of your opinions on how this will impact existing infrastructure. Our systems are already overwhelmed with wait times in emergency room, hovering around 4 to 6 hours. Our daycares have massive wait lists requiring new families to put their names down 2 to 4 months before the child is born. Metro Vancouver classrooms are already overpopulated, and we are only anticipating future growth. Should the increased density only be allowed if developers submit development applications related to appropriate infrastructure, for example, hospitals, daycares, and schools. Would this make housing more affordable or more unattainable for the average British Columbian? Looking forward to your responses. Thanks, Gage B. Yeah, so we talked about this. We've talked about it in multiple times. I think maybe most aptly is the TOD, word of the day, like Alex said. We talked about a few episodes ago in Vancouver and the plans that the province made for these transit-oriented developments around transit stops and increasing density around those places. So it's in reference to that. And at least from my perspective, and where I would come from in this, is that the population is already increasing to begin with. And yes, you could say there's differences about where those populations are going to be increased in that density in those spots. But it's the difference between somebody being able to afford to live in dignity in like a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment with their family, or being squashed into, a leaky basement apartment.
Yeah. I think I think this what Gage brings up is really interesting because usually I think we talk about when discussing housing and added density and infill and TODs, we talk about the infrastructure as like the wastewater, the sewage system, right? The roads, can the roads handle it? And I think it's really great that Gage brings up the conversation around like the schools and the amenities, right? Like, can these things handle it? And I have a lot of thoughts on this, and I'm going to make future videos talking about kind of these exact things. The first thing is, often when we hear arguments like this, when people hear, oh, but what about the roads? What about our infrastructure? What about the schools? What about all of these things? We often hear this from people who are trying to block the housing. But I think it's really important to remember that these are legitimate concerns because these are problems, and these are problems that we've been plagued with for a while. And adding density has the potential to exacerbate these problems and make them more frustrating for everybody involved. But they're also solvable problems. Whether or not the solution or the potential solution that Gage brings up that we could have, have included in the development proposals, having the developer say, hey, and we'll build a school in this way, or we'll make sure we add this park, or we'll do this. I don't know if that's necessarily the solution, because I think we also have institutional problems where we're not building enough schools, where we're not paying teachers well enough to make teaching an interesting career for people to stay in long term. We're not giving them the supports to make sure that that's viable mentally. And so as far as whether or not that's something that a developer should include in their application, I think it would be great to have developers on board saying, hey, and we would like to set aside this area for future school. But then I think it's really important that that it's done in tandem with provincial or state or local authorities to make sure that those services are uh, being accessible to the people in those communities. That's what I'd say broadly on that subject.
Yeah. And to add to
Yeah.
that, I think it's important to note that while these developments might come from a particular like just a specific developer who wants to build one particular development in that specific area, I think it comes down to the municipality in conjunction with the province to make sure that these services are adequate. But the bonus that comes from these types of developments around transit hubs, for example, or 15-minute cities, is that increased density makes this huge tax base right in that center that can support itself. And it's not a huge drain on the city because it's actually producing so much at that specific place that it can support itself. You're not spreading yourself thin with huge swaths of single family homes.
Yeah, that's the one thing about building, mixed use developments, is that you actually do reduce your strain in a lot of ways on your infrastructure because you're concentrating people more into certain areas and building up density rather than sprawling it all out. Infrastructure like your water lines, your power lines, stuff like that is much easier to actually maintain, just purely due to the fact that you don't have to outstretch these resources through sprawling suburbs. And you have less roads to maintain, Therefore, you have more money to save to put into things like schools, like hospitals, and other things that can benefit your community centers, anything along those likes. And the less
Yeah.
you're putting into that essential infrastructure, because you don't need to invest as much into it because it's not as sprawling, the more money that you are going to be able to, direct into other infrastructure.
Yeah, and I
And then,
think
also your boosted tax base from that. Strongtown's actually just put out a post about how I think it was just this one taco joint alone was generating more revenue per, square foot of the business than an entire Target.
yeah, and I think something important too and very specific about Canada right now is the immigration numbers. A lot of people are coming to this country. I think it's about 500,000 people every single year. And that's for, a country. What's our population? It's not even 40 million yet.
40
Yeah,
million.
about 40 million.
Just cracked it.
Yeah, so it's growing very quickly. That's a huge amount of people. So it comes down to, okay, what do? We keep doing what we've been doing for ages and just keep sprawling out and spreading. Again, we've talked about this. Like, there's only so far you can go. You look at the Lower Mainland. There's not a lot more room left. And I'm going to repeat myself. What do? We just look at the Americans and wave and say, hey guys, can we have some of your room? We've run out. Because at some point that will happen. So we have to figure out how to nip it in the bud.
It's simple. You just sprawl out Yellowknife. I don't know why you guys aren't thinking about this.
We have so much land. Let's just go up there. Yeah.
Yeah, just go through the territories. I'm sure they'll love it.
Global warming, we can just help it move faster so those areas become more livable. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We're on it.
Fire up those coal plants, everybody. Yeah. So I also want to mention here, Paige Saunders made a video last week talking about Canada's population. And it was a great video, well thought out. And so I highly recommend that. I'll link that in the description of the video here. But yeah, that was a great video talking about our population growth and why we need the population growth, and also why we need to start building the infrastructure to support that growth. And so having TODs being built, we can do that. And the thing is that I always say, this is a solvable problem. This is something we can do something about. When somebody comes with these concerns, we say, yeah, 100%. That is a valid concern. It's something that we need to think about. Where are these kids going to go to school? Where's our wastewater going to go? How are we going to deal with it? But these are all things that we can do something about. So a well thought out development, I think, should include that. What that looks like, I think it involves a lot of developer, private, public partnerships and working together to make sure that we're building sustainable cities.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for the email. Keep them coming.
Much appreciated, everybody. And if you hear noises outside from my mic, just be warned. People love revving their engines in car-dependent places.
That might have been mine. I'm hearing lots of noise outside my window right now.
Oh, yeah, that's right, because you clearly are, Mr. Cycle and then put the bike in the Hummer,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I live in a very pleasant single-family home neighborhood where the average population age is getting older and older. So we're nice and quiet here, just the way my neighbors like it. But I've got a comment here from Austin Surson, another regular listener to the show, and Austin says, I'm super surprised that every neighbor I talked to in Charleswood was supportive of me running a bike repair shop out of my garage. At least 4 of my neighbors within sight lines have visited my shop. It just goes to show that not every single family household resident is a NIMBY. I'm sure they appreciated that I went through the official city licensing process, although one neighbor was a little concerned seeing the city development permit notice sign to add a business to the property, despite no actual construction taking place. So this is another thing. When we talk about NIMBYism, a lot of the time, people are worried because they don't know what's happening, right? They're just told, hey, something's happening, or somebody's opening up a business on your block.
Change, boo.
But if you're just told like, oh, hey, I'm just running a bike repair shop out of my garage, you can pop by, bring your bike by, I'll fix it for you. I think people are a lot more on board with these things than you think they are. That's why I think like continuing conversations, making sure you keep an open dialogue is super important. So I appreciate that comment from Austin and wanted to bring that up. If you guys have any thoughts to add.
No, it's the same thing across the board when it comes to talking with people. Is, you know, when you hear about quote unquote NIMBYs, and like Alex said last week, we need to bridge the gap. When you actually talk to people face to face, you could be in deep disagreement about things online. I'm sure you got those people together. It's a lot more easy to reach common ground. We're a lot more similar than we
Yeah.
we
Oh,
think.
100%.
Yeah, because we're all people who care about our community. So having that conversation is huge. Speaking of people who care about our community, Ethan got called out.
Yeah,
Hate
I
mail.
got exposed.
Yeah, he got exposed. Do you want to
Phony.
read this comment, Ethan?
So yeah, I'll read this comment. This comment comes from St. Louis and St. Louis-YU9IZ. Great episode as usual. However, you got something wrong, Ethan. Semicolon. The combined metro areas of St. Louis and Chicago is larger than the corridor of Canada. Obviously, I want HSR from Windsor to Quebec corridor. Just wanted to, sorry, it's not scrolling. Just wanted to point this out, and then a little smiley face at the end. And I kind of did like a rough estimate of the math, and no, I'm still right.
No, you're wrong.
It's just,
So-
I believe the population between Windsor to Quebec is just a little under half of the entire Canadian population, which is about somewhere in the range of 15 to 20 million, rough estimate. And the greater Chicagoland area has about 9 to 9.5 million people. And the greater St. Louis area has about 3 million people. So if you do the math, it's about 13, we'll just say 14 million to include places like Springfield, Bloomington, Normal that are along the St. Louis to Chicago corridor. So they're similar, but the Canadian one just kind of barely edges it out.
I'm looking at a map here, Ethan.
Am I wrong?
Here we go.
You know what? I might side with our St. Louis friend
Really?
here. I think, you know what? It might just eke it out just a little bit.
I'd be shocked. I mean, I'm surprised because St. Louis has lost a lot of population as of recent.
Oh, has
The
it?
metro area, at least, even. The city, absolutely. The metro area has been in slight decline over time.
Yeah. I'm mostly saying this to grind your gears, Ethan.
Oh, this is
I
Woodmug
don't
today.
actually know. I haven't done any math on it. But maybe this can be
Alex
an
showing
ongoing
up,
thing.
I disagree.
I disagree. Hey, you said you wanted a little conflict. You wanted
That's
some
fair.
disagreement.
That's fair.
We're trying to spice up the
We're
news
just
here.
blocked, reported, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're
So-
similar. They're surprisingly similar population corridors, and both deserve
Yeah.
high-speed rail.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's as well as Calgary and Edmonton. We all get high speed rail.
It's like the Oprah
so-
scene. You get high-speed rail.
Yeah,
you get high-speed rail. Everybody gets high-speed rail.
Do you know how amazing that would be? What a beautiful day. What a beautiful day in North America that would be if we just like Canada, Mexico, the US, all the way down to Central America. I want to be able to take a high-speed rail to the Panama Canal. I want to be able to take a high-speed rail through the Darien Gap. Okay? I want to be able to take high-speed rail from Alaska to Chile. And then under the ocean to Antarctica.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
This is what I'm looking for. And then across Antarctica to Australia.
Oh my gosh!
That would take a while.
Could you imagine a tunnel under the Drake's Passage?
Dude,
It wouldn't cost very much to make. Come on.
Dude, I don't know why we're not doing that. Honestly, like it's a huge money.
Can't we
High
just
speed
print money anyways?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not real.
Yeah. So I think that'd be a great allocation of resources. Either way, it would be cool to say we're the planet that did that.
Yeah, it would be
You
pretty
know,
great.
did Mars do that? Did Venus do that? No,
Earth
I don't
supremacy.
think so. Yes. So
This is what our
yeah. Do we have
This is what the show devolves
What?
into after the first hour mark.
It's true. It's true. We do need to wrap it up, though. Do we have any
What about my Woog
final
mug? Somebody
remarks
cut my
before
Woog
we
mug.
do? Oh, you've got a
Did
Wug
you
Your
mug.
cut
wood
it?
mug got cut?
Someone didn't want it?
Hey, I didn't
What
cut it. I didn't
happened?
cut anything.
I have something to complain
What's
about, and it's been brewing up, and I know we've talked about this recently, and I'm sure many times we'll talk about it again. But I'm being very specific with my words here. Unnecessary idling. Unnecessary idling.
mm,
Okay, this is something that's been pissing me off, and I'm sharing a collection of videos that I put together, a collage, a compilation, if you wish. You can watch that on YouTube. But so last week was really cold, right? It got really cold. It snowed a ton, and there were a ton of people idling, and the air quality in Vancouver was terrible. Okay, and that's something
mhm.
I'll throw a blind eye to when it's below 0 degrees and you're frosted up. And I know there's ways. You don't need to run your car. You can scrape the window. You can let it run for 5 minutes. But the amount of cars I saw this week when it was like 8 degrees on my way to work, sitting idling with nobody in it, get the fuck out of my city. I don't want to ride through your goddamn like cloud of exhaust when I'm going to work. Like it's bullshit. Like I'm not trying to be insane here. Like it's actually bullshit. If you're in your car
Yeah.
and you're on your phone, fuck you. Like you're actually a piece of shit. Like
For our
turn off your
American-
goddamn car. Like
Sorry.
it pisses me off to like. So this video, I'm sure like I took video of people in their car scrolling Facebook on their phone while their giant SUVs running. It's fucking stupid. Like stop it, please.
Oh, the G-Wagon too.
Yeah.
Even better.
It's sorry. I got this is what Wugmug's for.
No,
okay?
you're
I
all
let it
yeah,
out. I can let it
exactly.
out.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Let it out.
This is
Let
the
it
vent
out.
section.
Yeah.
This is the vent sesh.
In the first one that set me off, it was Monday morning, and it was at the beginning of this video. You can see the cloud. I put it in slow motion. You see the cloud, the vapor spreading across the entire street as my bike light points onto it, and it's just it's too much. It's too much. So I could just say, hey, please, just if you need to run your car, get inside it, turn it on, and go. Because guess what? As you start driving, it actually heats up the car quicker than just leaving it sitting and idling and poisoning the air for everybody around. Okay, that's all I want to say.
Thanks, Nick. Also, just for our
what?
for our American viewers out there, 8 degrees is somewhere around, I believe, like 45 to 50 degrees. So
I think it's like
yeah, that's not cold. That's not cold. You can just start your car and drive at that temperature. You do not need to warm up your car.
The heat will
when
turn
it is
on
above freezing
in 2 seconds. It'll be warm in your cab.
Yeah.
Like it's not something
Yeah.
you need to be doing. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things where people wasting their money, wasting the air. And not only that, what makes it even worse is the fact that so many new cars now come with like air filtration systems that you don't even have to turn on that cycle thing inside the air filtration. It's just the intake filters the air so you have clean air to breathe. So while you're in your cab, just a little cabinet, you're living room on wheels, you're rolling through the city with clean air to breathe while you're spewing out toxic fumes for the people outside of cars. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. This is actually a big thing. As like that good cycling infrastructure does for you as well. Like it gives you a little separation from that exhaust as well. Because it sucks. It
I
sucks
love
when you're
breathing
riding your bike.
exhaust fumes. That's why I love sharing the road.
It's like the Cities by Diana ones where it's like, I love breathing in microplastics. Yeah, it's disgusting, right? Like when you're riding your bike and somebody drives by you and,
I'm a
and you get
gas
exhaust
mask.
right in the face.
I'm a gas maxing car dependency supporter.
Yeah.
A walk-selled urbanist build hellhole. Something like that.
Yeah, it's one thing if you're, if I'm on my scooter, you're riding by, it's not pleasant. But when you're on a bicycle, like riding uphill, huffing and puffing, and you get blasted with some diesel exhaust, that's rough, man. It's not really unpleasant. It's just bad for your health.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy.
Well, yeah. I'm glad we got that out, and hopefully we encounter a little less exhaust fumes in the future. But alas, that's going to do it for this episode of Radio Free Urbanism. Thanks for joining us, folks. You can find me on Humane Cities, wherever I happen to be. And Nick, where can we
I'm
find
at
you?
Nick Laporte on YouTube or Nick the Door and other socials.
Excellent. And Ethan?
And folks, you can find me at Climate in Transit on pretty much every platform except for Twitter, because I'm just at Climate Transit there. But yeah, that's where you can find me and all my great content.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Thanks for another great show, and we will be back next week with some more things to say, I'm sure.
Two wheels good.
Train good.